What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York. We are back on the rooftop in New York City, right outside the Gramercy Theater, and we are here with Bobby and Carl of Signs of the Swarm. Thank you guys so much for being here. It's great to finally get you on the show.
Dude, thanks for having us, man.
Yeah,
thanks for the walk over. It's pretty cool.
Super grateful to be here. It's a beautiful view. Yeah. It's my first time getting an actual panoramic of the city. I'm usually just stuck down on the ground level, so this is nice. I appreciate it.
Venues pretty much all day, so we can't do this. So this is awesome.
Enjoy this view, because after the set with you guys, Archspire, Whitechapel, and Entheos, all of New York's going to be a smoldering crater after tonight.
I hope so, man. Hopefully everybody's just there and having a good time, man. You know, that's what we try to do.
It's going to be awesome. So the latest single that we got is Amongst the Low and Empty, a fantastic track. Is this sort of like what a representation of a continuation of what we would get off of your previous album, Absolvery, if I pronounced that correctly?
Yeah,
or is that a good trailer in a way?
Yeah, so it's honestly very different. It's kind of like a whole new beginning for us. We've gone through a lot of change. This band has gone through a ton of changes from the very beginning. It's like, pretty much every album cycle, there's something happening, some members changing. We do a lot of traveling and just kind of get different perspectives. We're all getting a little older now too, you know, where we're like seeing what the crowd likes, what the fans like, and also what we like to perform and what we want to put out. So it's honestly it's an evolution of that, but it's more so just like we just kind of sat and we're like, whatever happens, happens. It wasn't really like we want to kind of do the next thing. It was just like, these are cool riffs. We wanted to give David a lot of room to kind of explore vocally more than he usually gets to. A lot of times he's confined to like, this has to be this kind of thing because this is just like, that's what's going to sound good.
Yeah.
You know, and this track's gives him a lot more room to kind of explore and throw his voice around and do some catchy shit. So
yeah. And Carl, you coming on board to Signs of the Swarm, welcome to the camp. Were you kind of looking at the earlier stuff such as Senseless Order or Vital Deprivation, being like, okay, this is how I have to play, this is what the band is about, or were you kind of given full reign to bring a little bit of your own mix into Signs of the Swarm?
Yeah, so I feel like coming in, like kind of like what Bob said, a lot of the songs just kind of felt like natural, and they just kind of felt like it was just showing what everybody in the band kind of likes and their inspirations going into one song and multiple songs, sorry. But I guess the guys had the faith in me enough to put a very little sliver of my own spice on some things here and there. But honestly, I guess this fucking guy, this guy crushed everything on writing, and David in their respective parts, and Michael, everybody doing their own thing. So coming in, it was kind of just like a natural thing. So I'm kind of just doing my own thing when it comes to this band. Like, I feel like I've played for a lot of bands and I've tried to do my own thing, but coming into this band, it's a lot more natural to just have my own style. So yeah, I guess like, you know, with the past material, it's nice to like look back and like pay homage to it and be like, oh yeah, you know, that's what the band was and this is what it is now. So I kind of just like am trying to put myself in like the middle of that, where like, you know, it's like the new and the old kind of. Yeah. Good little blend, I think.
Well, when you compare, like, you know, Disfigurement to Senseless Order to, you know, Vital, like, it almost seems like every album does sort of, like, play by its own rules. And your latest album, Absolvery, I felt like really was a good demonstration of that in a way. With the next album that, you know, without giving too much away, of course, are you planning to just make sort of a continuation of what we heard off of the last album in a way? Or are we going to get, like, a brand new territory, Signs of the Swarm, that we've never seen before?
I think it is a lot of new territory, actually. We just kind of... We've been working on music we've been working on a record actually for a while, which we should have some information about relatively soon. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was just we just kind of sat down and we're like, we're just gonna riff and jam and whatever comes. And I feel like every record is very different because, again, we've had so many changes from record to record. Like, I feel like Disfigurement was more like our breakout album. A lot of that was attributed to who was in the band, the personalities that were in the band at the time. I feel like Vital was in us kind of getting our footing together with David. The last record it felt like a big voice from me and David. Like the older records were like, it was a voice of the people who were in the band at the time. I feel like now we're kind of moving into like, this is the voice of the people who are in the band now. You know what I mean? Yeah. We still have a lot of that ridiculous heavy shit. We have, you know, we keep that sound that is you can press play and you're like, oh, that's that band, cool, you know
Yeah.
what I mean, you know. But it is also, there's a lot of left turns, and there's things that we would do that that we've done that we don't really think about, like, oh, this is gonna make people think this or that. It's just like, if that sounds cool, that's it. We're just doing it. And it seems to be working really well.
Yeah.
Because the reaction for this single, Low and Empty, has been great. Like, it's been growing every day still.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's a
That's great.
fantastic album, fantastic track. I do think like that's one of the best, if not the best, Signs of the Swarm track that we've gotten so far. So I can't wait to hear more in a way.
Cool.
But I've always considered Signs of the Swarm, despite, you know, I'm sure you guys have been categorized in this sort of deathcore category here and there, but like I consider you guys to be very experimental within that process. You know, I do see some technical elements in there, some very melodic elements, some progressive elements here and there.
Yeah.
Would you say that every song, almost being that every song sort of in a way plays by its own rules, does every song almost call for different drumming or different guitar techniques in a way? Like, do you almost feel like you're adjusting quite often?
Yeah, I feel like honestly, like in new record perspective, obviously without saying too much, it's just everything in every song I feel like is just catered to specific elements that I feel like everybody in the band can do more. I mean, like I said, you know, Bobby had his hands on everything writing, guitar-wise, but just like to play those respective parts, it's just a lot of like, I feel like good back and forth of a crap ton of David, a crap ton of crazy drums, and then all crazy guitars, but like they all mesh crazy well together. So it's definitely just different in every song, like when it comes down to like technique and stuff like that. I just feel like everything shines. It's not even like one thing stands out more than the other, and that's honestly really sick, I feel like, in just an outside ear perspective and being in the band perspective. So it's cool to have everybody playing their respective parts, and it's just like, oh shit, they can play, you know what I mean?
we've always done a lot of back and forth, like even our old shit that was like mostly slam, really down tempo stuff. Even like we always had these clean guitar parts and like really atmospheric stuff that it wasn't quite as fleshed out, but it was just fun, you know.
Yeah.
And also we were kids then.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I've always tried to carry that, you know, and like try to make it to go as far as I can with it. So like to the point where some of those clean things almost sound like a completely different genre of band, you know.
Yeah.
Or like just these things that kind of jump back and forth. And I also think it makes a really nice context for the stuff that is really extremely heavy, rather than just being balls to the wall heavy, which I love that shit. Like I love slam bands and you know, brutal death metal, but it's just with Dave's voice and the sound of this band, there's just something about like that comparison, the contrast of when we can kind of slow it down a little bit and then immediately hit into that crazy shit where it's just like it hits you in the chest. It's
Yeah.
kind of different, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And I love that.
Yeah. Well, I know that you
Experiment.
also played bass and drums for Signs of the Swarm as well. So, like, I'd
Yeah.
imagine you kind of have, like, a really good sort of, like, a knowledge, really, in just how rhythmically the band is supposed to do and melodically from every approach.
So I actually joined the band so near the very beginning of the band in late 2014 or maybe early 2015 as a guitar player. Like they posted a video of them, a couple of the dudes practicing in a practice room, and I like hounded them to let me join the band as a guitar player because I'd played drums and stuff for years with other bands and in school, and I started playing guitar, learning to play my own riffs, and I really wanted to do something different. So I like begged them to let me join, and they did. And then our drummer at the time, he was a great dude. His name's Greg. He had to step back, so I was like, well, I'm a drummer. It's really hard to find drummers.
Yeah.
So I ended up playing drums. I ended up playing bass for a while, and then back to drums with people coming and going.
Yeah.
I've just always kind of like believed in this band and the people in it, you know.
You're the Dave Grohl of deathcore.
But no, like I learned a lot of those.
Bobby Grohl.
I learned a lot of those, like the sound of the band, like from the people that I was working with, like
Yeah.
the early members of the band coming in, and they taught me a lot on just how to write music and record music and to structure things for this band. So I've tried to kind of keep that, but have more fun with it, you know.
Yeah.
Just like we don't just kind of take the reins off. It's just like, again, if it's a sick riff, cool, send it.
Yeah.
It's cool. I'm gonna do that.
And Carl, joining up with the band now too, being that this new album will be like your first contributions to the band, is it gonna resonate with you on a different level if you were to play stuff off of Disfigurement or Vital, etc.? Like, is it gonna resonate with you or hit you on a different level playing some of the older stuff versus some of the stuff you witnessed in the very beginning?
Yeah, like already being in the band, you know, the stuff that we play, obviously I had nothing to do with anything whatsoever, but I think it's more or less for the fans of the band and stuff like that. Like, I love the music that the band has put out, and for me it's just cool to play it, like being a fan before and like just knowing the guys and being cool. I genuinely enjoy the music, but like as opposed to the new stuff, it'll definitely hit me a lot more playing some things that I've contributed on for the little bit that I contributed on. So it'll definitely be a very big difference of feeling for me, I feel like.
When I listen to you guys play, you guys absolutely slay it on the album, and I've had the privilege of seeing you guys live numerous times. You're equally as brutal on the album as you are live in a way. Is there at all a similar energy that you channel into your live presence as you do in your songwriting? Because I feel like you do, in a way, on the album, capture the live energy in a way. Yeah. So, like, is there at all that ties it together, or are they two completely separate forms of self-expression?
I think it's pretty different. Like, a lot of it comes from David. Because David goes hard all the time. For me, a lot of the writing is like I'm just sitting in a chair riffing, and then and then when we are tracking, it's a lot of, especially with drums. Drums translate a lot of that energy. Like if you're hitting really fucking hard, you know what I mean. Like with the guitar, it's a little bit easier to kind of like I don't want to say cut and paste, but like to bring things together on a computer versus like beating the fuck out of a drum set or whatever. But a lot of it comes from David and his voice and the energy that he puts off. I've learned with this band that I can get away with writing a lot of things that are just out there, just different, or just like interesting changes and transitions in songs, because when he kind of comes in to put his spin on it, it always makes it sound like the band. So I think that's a big part of having a great vocalist that can deliver, and also have he has the foresight to, when he's writing, and also Mike, our bassist, he does a lot of writing with Dave as well. They have that foresight to kind of think about what are things that will attach to people live, things that can be called back, things that can be really impactful to see performed as well as heard on a record. They're good for that. I'm not so good with that. I have no really lyrical or vocal abilities. I pretty much just give the riffs and drums, and then I let them do their thing, and I just trust them to do that, and they're great at it. So
speaking of which, actually, because I did have sort of like a lyrical question, even though you guys aren't the vocalists, but has Signs of the Swarm ever, because like I've always considered you guys and Distant, both of you guys, I consider you both, I call you Slam for the thinking man. I feel like your music does provoke a lot of thought with its emotion. So has Signs of the Swarm ever like approached things from sort of like a conceptual standpoint, where maybe like a story or an idea maybe helped guide your hands with regards to how you wrote the music?
Yeah, Dave does a lot of he tries to we try to do everything with a purpose. Well, especially him, he tries to do everything with a purpose lyrically. Like there's a lot of things that may just kind of like the bleh vocals, where it's just like, oh, that's just like a noise. He always tries to make sure that there's a point to it, you know what I mean? Like there's a reasoning for it. It's not just like a random throw of vocals, whether it's what's a lyric, whether it's a lyric or just a he does try to be impactful with it, for sure. He's really good about. We've had a couple songs that touch deep on both his and I's childhood upbringings and stuff like that, which is not something you get a whole lot of, I think, in like deathcore slam.
Yeah, I think Whitechapel maybe is probably the most with that, but like I've noticed that deathcore doesn't always tend to tap on the personal.
Well, our older records were very much like big words, brutal shit. This is slam stuff, and then I think we did as much of that as we felt comfortable with. And then Dave is also he's a great lyricist, and so yeah, I think he tries very hard to make sure that everything he does has a purpose, especially on the stuff we've been working on in the last year or so has been very and you can tell with Lone Empty, like you'll see us play live, like people are, it's a lot easier to grab onto the lyrics for a crowd, which makes it hit harder in the chest. It makes you feel it a little more, than just like a fucking girdle line, which is great. That we have that. You obviously seen us. We have that in the set and stuff. But yeah, he definitely makes a point to bring that emotion to it as well. So
I feel like that song is just like written for a live song. I feel like
yeah,
it
kind of
just
accidentally.
has that energy. It's just like right away you could just bob to it the whole time, and it's a
Yeah.
live song. You just want to like jump in your house, you know, like that old school metalcore shit from like 2010, whatever it was, just jumping up and down doing the thing. It's cool, man. It's like I think it's very refreshing for deathcore or whatever, what genre we fall into, but it's cool, man. It's got that sick vibe to it. I feel like a lot of the songs capture that energy, which is awesome. I love that.
Absolutely. It's like crowd interaction or stage presence in a way. Is that something that you almost have to practice as much as like the song itself in a way, or does that just happen as natural?
Dude, that's such like a hard thing. I just saw a video of it actually. Somebody was some band guy was talking about it, but it was like you just get on stage and do it, you know? You practice the music so much, and you just kind of feel when you're sitting down, like just the nodding, and you just kind of know what's going on. And I feel like when you go up there, at least for me, man, like when I'm up there, I feel like nothing else matters, and the only thing that's of importance is, the four of us on this stage and delivering Signs of the Swarm, not just delivering the Carl show and not just delivering the Dave show or anybody's show. It's like, this is us, and we're going to give you all the way tuned up past standard tuning. We're going to give you fucking higher than standard tuning, because I just feel like there's no way to go less than that, So I feel like, no practicing on stage presence. It's just like, I feel it. It's natural. I do different shit almost every night, not even thinking. It's just so muscle memory and like calculated at this point now. It's just all emotion.
I think a lot of it comes from the chemistry in a band too. Again, we've gone through a lot of members in this band over the last 10 years almost, which is crazy. I think next year makes 10 years that I've been in this band.
I was going to get into that
shortly. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is definitely the group of guys we have right now. There's a chemistry. You can hear it in the music a lot more than ever before. At least since I was a kid. When we were in high school, we had a certain chemistry where we were just like, you hear it's just very raw music, just very like, it doesn't fucking matter. We're just gonna play riffs and
half-assing's a way of life
it's
at
like,
that
it's
point.
Like a slam, cool, sick. Like it's heavy and brutal, but being able to kind of keep that like freedom and the fun of it, but also make like a more cohesive music that's like I don't want to say easier to listen to, but just like more enjoyable to listen to,
Definitely.
for a broader audience.
Definitely. You led me perfectly into the next three questions I have, and that's it for the interview. But when it comes to the songwriting, actually, whenever I ask a band like how the making of an album was, and they say, oh, we all collectively came together and it was all a mutual agreement, I really don't believe it, because if you're in a band with 4 to 5 people and you're writing a dozen or so songs, there's going to be some disagreement in there. There's going to be some differentiating views. But maybe, do you think that can almost help the songwriting process in a way?
Absolutely. So that was a huge thing for us in the last year. Like I said, we've been working on a lot of music, and the record before this as well, Absolute was like that. We did like our first record was just like make it in a bedroom, put it out. The second record was make it in a bedroom, get some other opinions, put it out. The third record, we went to a major studio. We went to Atrium with Carson and Grant, and they're great, but we didn't have a ton of time there, so we took in what we could. But for the most part, it was like, here's our riffs, let's put these songs together. Our last record, was the first one that we like really sat and like sent things back and forth, and like, I like this, I don't like that, let's do this. And it shows. I think it kind of is a really great representation of the old shit and the new shit. And then everything we've been working on recently, we've been working with Josh Schrader and a couple of other producers, people that have, it's not so much that they like give you ideas, but they put you in a comfortable enough spot to allow you to be vulnerable, to where it's like, I don't know how I feel about that, but everyone loves it. I might not even really like that specific part. But then as you start adding things and giving other people their chance to shine, it makes it really special. There's a lot of things that I would never think to do without the people that work with us, in the band or outside of the band or whatever. And being able to trust them enough to be like, like maybe I wouldn't think to do that, but it's going to be sick. That's a huge thing. I do a lot of writing on my own time for the band, and there's things where I'll send a song and I'm like, I don't really like, it's cool, I like this part, that part, but I'm not really sold on it. And then a couple weeks go by and people start adding what their ideas and their flavor, and it's like, this is my favorite song we've ever done, and it's because of things that I never ever would have considered doing myself. Yep. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. And also, here comes the most difficult question, though. How do you know when a song is finished? You first.
Oh man, I feel like you just have to like just be comfortable enough to tell yourself that it's finished. Like I feel like anybody can write riffs any day, but like when you just have that genuine feeling where it's like, dude, this is a fucking song, this feels great, it's done, at least on my end or one person perspective's end. And then who knows where it can go, you know? Like I did a random idea in the studio just on my own, just like away from everybody for like hours, just doing something random, and I'm like, dude, this rips, man, like we need to use this. And that's just me saying that, and that, you know, for whatever that means. And I'm like, dude, the minute Bob touches it, it's gonna turn into a fucking Sign song. Like it just sounds so sick, like I think on my end. The minute he touches something, it's just gonna be Signs of the Swarm right away. So it's like it's not done, I feel like, until everybody has their hand on it, and then it's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Now it's done, you know?
It's an interesting thing of like, you know, you just, it's a feeling, right? You can't quantify that, you know? You can see the number, the length of the song or whatever. Sometimes that's a judge, right? Like, okay, this is going on for a fucking minute. Like, we need to dial it back. Or we have a couple songs we've had over the years where it's like, we thought the song was done, then we're like, oh, like, there's a lot of fat here, this is unnecessary, and then we'll go back and cut out maybe a minute of stuff and just splice things together and be like, oh, we don't really need that line, all right, let's kill that. Other things we go in at the end and we're like adding sounds in between, or even just cutting things to make for dramatic effects or whatever. Like, it's just a point where you listen to it and you're like, okay, cool, it's a song, you know. And then you're almost never really like 100% happy with it, you know.
Yeah.
But it's if it feels good, it makes you feel something, then it's like, cool, it's accomplishing its goal, you know.
Of course.
So, but being able to recognize that's the hardest part. That's why, like I said, we just recently started working with Josh Schrader, and like he is a great source of guidance for that, of just like, no, that's sick, cool, like don't kill yourself over that part because you think it's missing that little thing. Like, you know, if it comes to you naturally, great, do it. But if most likely if you spend too much time on it, you are getting diminishing returns, you know what I mean? You're making it worse if you're rather than just letting it happen. So
I'm listening too. I'm also making sure the wind doesn't knock over.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
You see me looking that
Windy
way
now all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And for the last two questions, it's going back to your live presence, because I've seen Signs of the Swarm play with a variety of different bands, but also a variety of different venues too. Like I know that last year you guys played at the Kingsland, which is a very small, intimate venue, 100 cap or something like that. Tonight, and a couple times I've seen you play at Gramercy Theater, which is 500 cap. There's a barricade and all that. Depending on the venue that you're playing in, does that sort of change the Signs of a Swarm live experience?
Not at all, dude. I mean, from what it's been, I mean, maybe to like a very
it's the
small
crowd.
extent. The
crowd changes.
The crowd
We
changes,
don't
but
change.
I feel like it's just like we're just genuine on stage. Like for what it's been the past couple nights, like if there's a little bit less room on one side or something, like regardless of what it is, like fitting our equipment on, Tetris and stuff, like we make it work and we just do it. And you'll never know if there's a problem on our end, like with our fucking in-ears or something. Like You'll never know anything because we just go. Like I said, man, tuned up past standard always.
All gas, no brakes.
All
You
gas,
just go,
no
yeah,
brakes.
You just go.
Regardless, man, by the end, I really feel my age. That's all I gotta say. I feel old sometimes.
That was a great answer.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, sometimes it is it's the crowd that changes. Like we played an outdoor show in Tampa a few days ago, and the power went out during Entheos' set, and I felt really bad for them.
Oh, I saw Cheney post about that.
Yeah, the power went out, so they ended up losing some time, and then we had to kind of sit around for a couple hours. And so the crowd was like, everyone stayed, super grateful for that. So everyone was just so amped up. So we went on, luckily. We was getting to the point where we didn't know if we were going to go on. And the second that first note hit, the whole fucking place just exploded. One of the craziest crowds I've ever seen. Shout out Tampa. One of the craziest crowds I've ever seen for us in the States. It was just like everyone was ready to go. And that was because of that environment, because of the things like that. If the show would have went normally, that probably it would not have been as good of a show for us.
Nope.
So. It's the
great.
people. The people make or break everything, because it's really hard to give it. We try to give it all, but it gets to a point halfway through your set, if you're giving it all and people aren't giving it back, you're like, all right, like we're gonna vibe through the rest of this, right? But so yeah, if the people are giving it back to you, it's like I could do this all day. You know?
It makes it more and more worth it. It's like it's always worth playing a show. Like I love playing shows. Like I always say to the guys as a joke, like you'll never meet anybody that wants to riff as much as me. Like I'm always fucking ready to grab a guitar and play it anytime, anywhere. I don't care. But yeah, just going on that stage, man, just fucking when people are screaming lyrics back at you, or they're just throwing up metal horns, or whatever it may be. You see a kid on someone's shoulders, like it just really just amps you up even more, and you're just like, damn, man, like I'm doing this for a reason and it's working. Like, damn, this is sick. You know, it really makes all of it worth it at the end of the day for sure. Crowds, shout out crowds everywhere.
Let's make it all happen. And so before we go, I want to thank you guys so much for your time and for coming over today for an awesome, rooftop chat. Just if you're allowed to say when we could be expecting the new Signs of the Swarm album. Also, next year is going to be marking 10 years since the formation of Signs of the Swarm. So is there any plan for a celebration about that? Can we maybe get a Senseless Order in its entirety show, or like a Disfigurement or Vital in a way? Or what else could we be expecting to celebrate?
I can't say much about record stuff, but we have finished a record, and it will be out as soon as we can have it out. So I can say that.
Yeah. Thank you for not saying anything more.
So it's coming up on 10 years, and it's a bit of a weird thing because, again, like I said, we've gone through so many member changes where just in the last few years it has felt like this is the band again. When I was a kid, it was like, oh, this is our band. Like I couldn't imagine it being anyone else. But life happens, things change, and I just knew I wanted to keep doing this, and I'm super grateful to have been able to find people that are as passionate about it as I am, or even more passionate about it than I am for the most part. It's like a blessing. But in that same realm, it does sometimes make performing certain songs, records, like it doesn't quite have the same energy performing it live because it's not the same people that put their soul into that record. You know what I mean? So I don't ever really foreseeing us do like a 10-year tour or this or that of a thing. But we are traveling to a lot of new territories, which is really cool in the last year, and we've been making sure to break out a lot of the deep cuts that people would not usually see otherwise. Yes, so we are really desperately trying to do another headlining tour in the next year or so, which in that case we would play a lot more music. It's just we do these tours, we're super grateful to have a bunch of 6 support tours, but most of the time we can play maybe 6 songs, and we usually always have new music out. So it's like, okay, we're playing 2 new songs, 3 songs from our last record that were all singles because everyone wants to hear those, and then we can maybe get 1 older song in, right? So it's always a game of what we can get away with, and what we're playing the game of the big leagues versus like what we want to do versus what the crowd wants to see. So it's hard to please everybody, but at the end of the day, we try to play the songs that we know we're going to deliver the most to people, so that way the show's the best.
It gets the job done. That's it.
Yeah.
You give the people what they want. They give it to you.
Like I said, a Signs of the Swarm show is a Signs of the Swarm show. Going back to the last question you answered in this, we're always happy to see you guys, whether we've been on Chaos and Carnage or whether you guys were playing the Kingsland. A Signs of the Swarm show is always an experience that it needs to be seen. So I can't wait for a lot of the first timers tonight. Maybe like a lot of first timers seeing Archspire or Entheos are going to be seeing Signs of the Swarm tonight with Whitechapel fans. So it's going to be a great show tonight. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you for all the vibes. It's awesome up here, and I love to talk, man. We can keep talking if you want. We'll just keep going.
I know you guys got to load in.
Yes, sir.
Oh no, we might be late. Oh no.
But I would love it if you guys could piss off my neighbors and just play the show up here tonight.
Dude, that would be honestly sick as hell.
Some Beatles level shit up here.
Get all these lights on up here and shit around us.
I don't know what'll piss off the neighbors more, either the band's playing or Ollie from Archspire's kick-ass jokes.
Yeah, dude, Stay Tech, baby.
Yeah, absolutely. Insane band. I had never seen them before this tour, and they were just like.
It's just amazing how those are the most, and I can't stop mentioning this, they are the funniest human beings in metal, and yet their music is just insanely impressive. Like, it's almost like, I know serious musicians who are just seething right now.
Right?
It's like, damn, they're just so good. Again, like I just said, Stay Tech. That's all I got to say.
It ain't that
hard.
Drop
the mic.
Just stay tech.
Just stay tech. That's it.
Slamming Tech Best. Thank you so much, everybody. We are here with Signs of the Swarm. Be sure to check out their latest single, Amongst the Low and Empty. We will see you next time on Heavy New York. Stay tech.
Thanks.